You're here, which means that you've found spirit crumbs, leading you to your inner light worker. I will be sharing how these tiny little hints from the universe have led me to where I am today. I hope that by hearing my story and the stories of others, you'll pick up your own spirit crumbs along the way that will lead you to somewhere magical. Thanks for coming along for the journey. Let's see where it takes us.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Emily from Emily and Her Stars and Things That Make You Go Woo.
And I'm Andrea from Concrete and Crystals and Spirit Crumbs.
Get ready. Aquarius season is upon us already. I feel like we just had solstice and got to Capricorn, but as always, it moves methodically and quickly.
Very, very quickly. I feel like it literally was a week ago that we were talking about solstice. So I don't know what we're in for this month, but I feel like we're going to be just coasting through it. I don't think I'm going to remember this moment a day for like a month from now, a year from now. I just feel like with everything happening this year already in the collective and everything I've been doing, I'm moving, I have so much on the go. I just feel like that energy is whipping through us.
That really feels so true. And having Mars in retrograde for all of Capricorn season has really added this weird undertow where I feel like I have moments of inspiration and clarity, and then like real world gets in the way. But a lot of creativity came back in with that Leo retrograde. And now Mars is retrograde in Cancer, and we have the Cancer full moon today as we're recording. So I really feel the emotional aspect hitting. I happen to live with a Cancer moon, Cancer rising, and it has really been noticeable since the moon hit Cancer on Friday. Yes. How about you, Miss Cancer moon, Capricorn sun?
Yeah, my natal placements, they're hitting. They're hitting for sure. I'm feeling it. But I think too, like a lot of my family has Cancer placements as well. So just naturally this time of year, I feel like it's amplified. So this year, I think that retrograde was like weird undertone for sure. I mean, we were all, it's not like anything was happening. It's just I could tell all of us were going through different things, and it's been a bit rougher of a season for us. Like we all had a good time together, but even like now coming into January, it just feels like everybody's feeling a little sticky. So
Yeah.
I do definitely think that energy we picked up on when we were talking about that sticky energy is definitely, that's the Mars retrograde, I think, for sure.
And interestingly enough, too, we've also had the nodes switch since we talked. And I just wanted to revisit that for just a quick moment and remind you, I do have an article up on my blog about this lunar shift. But this is really for the next 18 months going to be about less thinking about your way through and more feeling into the alignment. Remembering like dishes aren't just chores, they're an opportunity for meditation and gratitude. And like a morning walk can be this beautiful portal and connection to nature. Remember that the magic that you're seeking is already woven into the everyday if you choose to see it. There's going to be more and more of this coming up, especially as the world, as we've seen only in the first, 13 days, has been a wild ride. And that is going to continue through the rest of the year. So going inward and finding those moments to, it's not escapism, it's about being mindful, because things, like we've said over and over again, are going to manifest really quickly. And if you have any of that lingering negative self-talk, any of those habits that we fall into, where like, I'm going to seek the worst because that's what always happens. It's about remembering to move back out of that and into a place of wholeness and recognizing that you are safe. Where have you been overworking yourself? What does healing look like? How does it actually feel?
I definitely feel that. Emily and I have been talking. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but I've been saying how I have been the guinea pig for the universe for all of this energy, like the Pluto and Capricorn. My natal placement, guess what? It's Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. And so almost everything that Emily talks about, I'm directly being impacted by it. But I do feel that energy of like, you'll get swept away with the energy if you don't take care of yourself. And I think like the idea of the North Node and South Node is that the South Node is what you're moving away from, the North Node you're moving to. And I think we're all, whether it's in those themes or not, that is like what Emily was saying. Like, if you tend to overwork yourself, where can you balance it out? Like, balance is going to be really important. The feeling I was getting is like, if you don't ground yourself in whatever way you need to, you will be swept away. Like, if you're not anchored, you will be swept away with the energy. It will be overwhelming this year. It's also a 9-year, which I think we discussed in the Gaining Light, which is kind of the in between. You're getting the endings coming up, things that need to be released, maybe not willingly, maybe some things being ripped out of the ground, but also having these moments of big shifts into what you wouldn't have dreamed for yourself. That Page of Cups energy that we had for January, as much as it doesn't feel like it right now because there's so much chaos, it's opening up like, okay, well, if none of this is real, then anything could be real, anything can be reality. And I think that that's the duality of it. And I think that theme is going to come up a lot because Pisces has that strong ending, like, 12th house liminal energy to it. So I think we're going to be leaning into these things. Like, what do we even really need if material possessions aren't I'm learning that as I'm moving, like there's a lot of those themes coming up. And I think we're all coming back to that wholeness. Pisces does have that unity energy to it. And I think we're going to be learning that humanity that I'm seeing already right now that we haven't seen in so long. I think that's going to be coming through, which I'm very hopeful about. I mean, it's a process. It's not going to be easy, but I do see those glimmers and I'm like, yes, finally, thank you.
Yeah, it's really about cultivating the gratitude for those small moments. I was gifted at a New Year's party a little gratitude jar in a mason jar, and there's, 31 pieces of paper for the month of January just to write down those glimmers, those small moments that we've maybe taken for granted are actually those magical parts. Seeing angel numbers, seeing hawks on your walk, being more mindful and really stepping into that mystical, magical part of life, because the mess is always going to be there, always going to be there. And I do think I'm excited about about Aquarius season. I'm already looking into Pisces season and it's a little different. But Aquarius season has a lot of Pisces placements. We're going to be talking a lot about Piscean energy in Aquarius season. So there's that blending of the air and water coming in. Of course, this is also the first Aquarius season we're experiencing with Pluto here now. So that brings in an added layer of transformation and the depth that we're really going to be experiencing this. And it's about looking at things from a wider lens, pulling out to that humanitarian aspect, pulling back to science and spirituality and nature and health and all of these things that make life maybe a little bit more worth living than just the day-to-day 9 to 5 grind.
Absolutely. I think that honestly, I'm again very hopeful for this. And I'm not even saying cautiously optimistic this year because I think at this point we're throwing caution to the wind. That's the phrase that came to me when I was talking about just a few minutes ago, when I was seeing the wind and getting swept away with it. It was like that was us throwing caution to the wind. At this point, the only thing we have learned is that we have no idea what the hell's happening. So why tell ourselves that we need to be cautious when this is a time to be taking opportunities? And I think that's the energy I'm feeling with that, where, yeah, we do have to be mindful. We do have to be very cautious. But I think actually, Emily, what you were saying about there being a lot of Pisces energy in this Aquarius season, I think that's why in the tarot, we actually went the other way. It's the most, which I'm excited about for this, but it's the most earth energy I've seen in a month for a long time. We've been in the fire, we've been in the water, we've been going through it with the air constantly. And this is the first time I've seen a significant amount of like the Pentacles energy and the earth energy coming in. So I think, again, it's trying to balance us and remind us of like our intentions behind things when things start to get crazy.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what card you pulled. We also recognize that we just dropped an enormous episode on you guys for the first half for Gaining Light of 2025. So we're going to kind of keep this episode a little bit more short and sweet. And so I'm ready to dive into the cards. How about you?
I sure am. I'm actually feeling like this is going to be definitely a transitional energy with a lot of that Pisces that you were talking about, because the only Cups card, which is amazing after all of the water we had in Gaining Light, and I think we did in Capricorn as well, but we have the Queen of Cups for January 19th to the 25th, which is, again, we had the King of Cups show up. very mature energy. Same with Queen of Cups, owning our energy. So we're carrying that forward into Aquarius energy. So again, there is a lot of water with like the Cancer influence, but it's a way of being able to be intuitive. And I think that's where it kind of shows up in this time period, because there's this Mars and Cancer energy. There's a lot of like action and like maybe frustration that comes with that. Some things where it's a little challenging. And this is a way of saying, like, intuitively, how do I pick my battles? And how do I protect myself? How do I stay calm? What do I need in order to stay calm if things don't go the way I'm expecting? And I think because this is for the first week, that it's kind of that transition into a new season. Sometimes it can be a little rocky just in general, going from one season to the next. And I think because this is showing up, as a queen energy to start, I think it is that reminder that we have everything we need, and we've been doing the inner work for a long time now. So all of the tools you have for self-care are really going to come in here as a literal toolkit. And I think because we also need to keep in mind that self-care looks different for everyone. For some people, yes, it's taking a bath, it's meditating. For me, it's doing the things I have to do and feeling good that I've done them, because I'm an earth sign. And when I avoid things that I need to do, I feel chaotic. I will gladly go to all of the other fun things before I do the things I have to do. That's my pattern when I'm feeling stressed. So I think for me, it's going to feel really good to do bite-sized chunks every day. And that's the emotional intelligence, that intuition. The intuition is telling me that the more I can just do a couple things each day instead of trying to do everything and burning out, that's my medicine for this month. So finding your own inner medicine, and you have to slow down to get that. Even if it's just one day that you sit and journal of like, what do I really need, in my material world, in my mental world, in my emotional world, in my spiritual world, like, what is it that I need as these tools to ground me so that I'm not swept away when those winds come blowing.
I think that is a huge part of this incoming energetic lesson, is that we've maybe leaned into self-care, like you said, in terms of spending money, in terms of, I went to lunch with my girlfriends. I got the extra cup of coffee. I went and got a manicure and a pedicure, and whatever those things are that we've justified as being self-care when they actually maybe weren't. And we're having to lean into a deeper layer of that. And so I'm going to remind everybody that on January 18th, and this energy, this is the day before the sun moves into Aquarius, is part of what we will feel for most of this week. It's that Venus-Saturn meetup, and it's the first of the 3 conjunctions that they're going to have in Pisces. So this is that bubble burst, that back to reality. So on the 19th, the sun moves into Aquarius. We've got a little bit of bubble burst energy coming in behind it. And really, this energy in Aquarius, it helps us make the world a better place, even if it's just in our own small ways. Like Andrea said, slowing down, taking things in bite-sized pieces, because we're no longer being called to support the winner of everything. We're really becoming the champion of the underdog and those left behind. So use this energy to geek out and follow rabbit holes that call you. The moon is going to be in Libra at this point. And with Mercury and Saturn, as well as the sun and the North Node, they're all going to be in harmonious angles. It's a really wonderful day for planning and opening up to the vision of your future self. On the 20th, it's also a little bit of a more quiet day, something to contemplate, because that sun and North Node energy will continue, kind of giving you the opportunity for divine downloads, divine inspiration. Where do ideas come from? What is the higher purpose to your human experience? And how can you find real alignment that is simple and joyful? That is a huge part of this year. On the 21st, we have a once in a year activity, a once a year moment when the sun is going to illuminate Pluto. Now here, both planets want to be the superpower, but when they join forces together, they're occupying the same place in the sky, they're going to create this new hybrid energy where we find a rush of adrenaline-fueled power. Again, this is happening on the 21st. We have a lot happening in the United States in this energy. And something else to keep in mind, this is the first meeting for these two planets in Aquarius since the late 1700s. We had some of this precursor energy in July, and we said that it would tie back to this time frame in late January where there's an opportunity for a whistleblower or something where an undercurrent of information is going to come to the surface, and the impact could be quite far-reaching. Mercury and Chiron are also going to square one another today, creating some conflict and stress. Some people will likely not want to hear what is being shared, while others will feel wounded or marginalized. With the last quarter moon in Scorpio, just stay out of a place of fear and trust in the safety that you've created for yourself. The 22nd, we have no new incoming energy, but we're building to this continual, expansion of energy at the end of the month. On the 23rd, we have 3 separate pairings of 3 planets. So Mercury and Mars and Uranus. Mars retrograde in Cancer is going to form this really slow, harmonious angle with Uranus in the final degrees of Taurus. This likely will play out more globally than locally, but the energy is the same no matter what. So where have you held on too long, and what can you liberate yourself from? Mercury in Capricorn is opposite Mars retrograde in Cancer, and this is going to create compromise central. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You absolutely have to go through it. There's a meme of the guy singing that song, and it always comes up when I think about this energy of the day. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. We joke about that as kids. You just have to go through it. But really and truly, this is that energy. You can't convince others to try your method, and you feel weak giving into other demands. So pick your battles. Let loose where you can and stand firm where you need to. It's about balance. Both planets are going to be in earth signs, so you probably won't veer too far from reality, but it will nudge you out of your comfort zone. How can you look at money and generate some new income ideas? The moon is also going to move into Sagittarius just before midnight on the East Coast. On the 24th, we have Mars in harmony with Uranus. That's going to continue today. If you've been needing to feel a change of pace or some new vistas on your horizon, this is the energy that could help push you over that point and make it happen. And then finally, the final day of this card, January 25th, this is the first of 3 flowing trines between Venus and Mars. Again, keep in mind, Venus is in the end of Pisces, Mars is retrograde in Cancer, so there's a lot of water, that Queen of Cups. How can I kind of own this energy? But there's 3 of these that are going to happen between now and the first week of April. This time, Mars, like I said, is retrograde, Venus is direct, and it's likely these 2 water signs could help bring comfort or idealism to a difficult situation. Venus in Pisces is all about asking us to seek art and romance, but Mars retrograde in Cancer is going to be fearful. And so these 2 together in a trine will bring some comfort and harmony to the discourse, but it's going to come with that gut feeling that's like, oh, it just doesn't necessarily feel good, or I don't trust, or I'm not 100% sure this is going to work out. Try not to read too much into everything because the blend between intuition and empathy will be blurred.
That makes so much sense why the Queen of Cups was coming in, because it's very strong, firm energy, but that makes sense. It's the Venus and Saturn combo that 100% resonates. As soon as you said that, I wrote it down. I was like, yes, that's the exact feeling I get. It's that balanced energy. And speaking of balance, for January 26th to February 1st, I pulled the 2 of Pentacles, which is all about balancing. It's all about juggling things and like what you need to drop. And I think I get the image of someone when you see someone juggling like 10 of something and how they're like having to pay attention to where all 10 things are versus just 2 things where it's not even juggling anymore. You're just holding one in each hand and maybe be able to do some fancy tricks, And I think by that point, after this emotional wave goes through, we're still going to have, I feel like, emotional waves going through, but we're really getting into the rest of the month is in this like earthy energy. And I think, counter to what I would expect, I think this is actually what we're going to need. This is going to be medicine for the rest of the year. And the message that I had around this that I'm getting now is like, really fine tuning things while the energy's there. Again, being the guinea pig of the universe, I don't know how I volunteered for this and who I talked to before I came to Earth, but not thrilled. But I actually have one of my natal placements, which I think drives a lot of my work because I have so much Capricorn energy, but my Mercury is also in Capricorn. And that was the energy that was coming through with this, where as much as it's about balancing things, it's like having that blend of intuition and the practical nature to say, okay, if I have 10 of these things to do, what do I actually need to do now? What can I delegate to other people? What can I give back to other people? So imagine that you're juggling. Like if you make a list of the things that are weighing on you, the things that feel urgent to you, because urgency is what's driving a lot of this, is like false urgency. Things that we have told ourselves, like every time I'm panicking about a deadline, if I step back and come back, I'm like, who gave me that deadline? Me. It was literally me. Every time I'm absolutely panicking. If I go to the person who the thing is for, or the person that I think is waiting for me, they're like, I forgot you were even doing that. I literally don't know why you're freaking out. So that kind of energy, very Mercury and Capricorn, where it's like, I feel like it all has to be done. And it's not so much like, this is where I feel the difference of Virgo and Capricorn is. Virgo's very stuck on like, this is the list. It has to be done this way. Whereas I'm trying to find efficiencies all the time. It's like, that's what my brain is doing. And so that's the energy to really lean into while it's here. That's what this card is saying. Like the 2 energy is like you can get support, right? There's a relational aspect to a 2. There's a feminine energy to a 2 of being like, okay, let's just sit back for a second and pause instead of panicking, because otherwise we're going to be exhausted. If we're juggling 37 balls, if you imagine everything on your list is a ball that you're juggling, which ones can you toss to someone else? You know, which ones can you throw back in the box? And then which ones are you actually going to carry forward? And I also just got this very sharp image. This is why I love not doing notes anymore when I do these. It's kind of like again, with inside jokes. That was the energy I tried to describe between Capricorn and Cancer a while ago, where it's like, I love something that brings me together with people, that feels like that family energy where you all have these inside jokes, but they're like witty and there's this energy to it that moves you forward. And that's kind of what I'm feeling here, is like the energy of knowing what needs to be done, knowing who you can pass it off to, and knowing what is not really as serious as it seems when you zoom back out again. And I think like, in terms of this 2, specifically this 2 of Pentacles, which things on your list are no longer necessary? And how can we harness this energy of like efficiencies to really dial down on everything, like subscriptions and like everything that you can clear out so that the rest of the year feels more balanced and feels like you have a handle on things. That's the kind of the energy I'm getting, is like getting a handle on it so that you're not spiraling the rest of the year.
I think that's perfect for this last week of January. And yeah, keeping in mind where we came into January, feeling a little bit swept away in some ways. I feel like this really will help us find that balance and grounding. On the 26th, we have another gentle day. 4 planets are creating opportunities for harmony. We've got Mercury and Neptune giving a chance to work on our mindsets and realign with the best versions of our dreams. And like Andrea said, finding ways to streamline, to get back into really organized, methodical forward motion, because we've had a lot of that Neptune, Pisces dreaminess that's like, oh, it'll just happen. It'll just come together if I keep trusting. And a lot of the energy this year is like, no, you actually have to put in the steps. Let's see. We also have Venus and Uranus providing the fuel to dream bigger and more creative vision for what your success and stability could look like. So use this window to go inward and ask yourself those really deep questions about what you truly need to feel in order to be valued and safe. Art and music carry far more weight than this season's must-have stainless steel water cups, right? We all have our Stanley water cups, but really and truly, it's art and music that mean more to us in the long run. So where can you, adapt and make some adjustments? Plus, the moon is going to move into Capricorn, and that's going to give you an idea of the emotions that are maybe no longer serving you. On the 27th, all the organizing and planning you've been doing with Mercury and Capricorn has primed the pumps for a flood of new ideas to come pouring in. Now that mental Mercury is going to dive into Aquarius, get ready to play a little mental twister where it's going to possibly spin up some conspiracy theories. This is maybe more global than local. When you're chasing down every article you can about a rogue topic, make sure to research from credible sources and not someone with a hidden agenda. We've still got Jupiter in Gemini, and it is going to expand every ounce of information that's out there. Nothing unites strangers faster than being able to band together during these times of confusion and tension. So just discernment, 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 like we said in the 2025 Gaining Light episode. On the 28th, we have a quieter day as we continue releasing ahead of tomorrow's new moon and the upcoming Lunar New Year. The moon shifts into Aquarius at 2:31 in the afternoon, really calling you to break out of the box. I actually like using the Lunar New Year as my new year. I think it's a really lovely, gentle energy, a little bit nicer, kinder entry into the year. On January 29th, we get to welcome in the wood snake. This is the second of 2 wood years, which emphasizes cultivating and growing your natural talents and growth. That's where the wood comes in. And snake years are ruled by Venus. So this is where we pray for peace and beauty and what is going to bring in harmony this year. For more details about how the wood snake is going to really color this entire year, be sure to check out my blog post. I'll also have some information about it on Instagram. Today's energy also includes a mashup between Curious Mercury and Secretive Pluto, and this is a once-a-year conjunction that's going to break open the vault. And with both of these signs in Aquarius, mysteries could really be revealed today. So I kind of have my eye on the 29th. Could be some interesting energy. On the 30th, after 5 months in retrograde, Uranus retrograde finally ends, and it's time for us to wake up to the money that is all around you. I'll keep saying this all year, but things are going to start moving quickly, and your ability to manifest things will increase. So now is the time to open up and be alert to the opportunities everywhere. Like Andrea said, how can we bring that balance in? Maybe it's getting rid of a subscription to make room for something else that feels more aligned right now. The sun in Aquarius is also going to trine Jupiter in Gemini today, and this is going to create a free-flowing exchange of ideas. If you want to spark ideas in new ways, take a different route on the way to work. Have coffee someplace new. Venture onto a website or blog that you've been meaning to and you haven't had time to. This is that combined energy that's going to force you to question if the box you were stuck in was even a box. And like that Aquarius really has you dream outside of the limits. The moon moves into Pisces. The 31st is really quiet. And then all of a sudden we are already in February. And I'm actually going to save this, Andrea. I'm going to save this last energy until after you do the card because I think it's going to change.
Okay, I'm excited to hear that. I feel like there's going to be some interesting things happening collectively. So I think it makes sense to be focusing on like emptying your plate while there's collective stuff brewing. So I really appreciated that nudge. Sometimes I wonder why the energy comes, and I'm like, now I know why. We got to get ourselves into the logic brain a little bit so that we don't get swept away. So that makes a lot of sense. And then when we go into our third week here from February 2nd to the 8th, I pulled the 4 of Pentacles. Again, same, very steady. And this is insane because like I have not felt this energy for months. I don't even recall a time that we've been recording ever since 2021, 2022, whenever we started these. But this energy to me, I don't write notes anymore for these ones. And I just was jotting stuff down that was coming through spirit. And I think part of it is they were bringing me back to me making my point in my ADHD point. The thing that they were driving me to with that energy of the balance and the balls being in the air is there's this game, the inside joke that I was like, I knew I was going somewhere with that. It was that we had this game, which I bought just recently and we haven't used yet. So maybe next summer we'll get our shit together and play with it. But there were these things where you have the pad on your hand and it's a round thing and it's Velcro. And then you throw the tennis balls back and forth and it sticks. And that was the energy, is anything you throw out to the universe is going to stick. They're going to catch it. It's going to stick. And that is the energy Emily. So when Emily was talking about that, that was in my head already. And then when Emily was saying like, this is the time to manifest things and like art and all of the things that excite you about life, it's going to stick this time. So please trust that if you have creative energy, it's going to stick. And that ties into this 4. They were showing me it's not, because I was like, I don't think I need to cover that. But they're like, it's part of this energy. It's a doubling. You go from 2 to a 4. It's now stable. It's now something you can hold on to. It's sticky in a good way. Before you were feeling sticky in like a foggy bog sort of way and like quicksand. This is sticky in a like, okay, it's not going to blow away. It's going to stay. And I think that energy is going to be really encouraging because like Emily said, all of a sudden and it makes sense. I was smiling when she was talking about the financial energy coming back because that's exactly what this is. It's like I was channeling the energy as Emily was talking for like what this was telling us. And what it was showing me is before the sand was blowing all over the place. And we were like, I need that. I'm trying to build a sandcastle here, trying to build an empire, and you keep blowing it away, or the water keeps coming in. Here come the waterworks, washing it away. And I'm like, come on, man. Give me 1 minute to like breathe. But what this energy is showing is what it showed me, which was really cool. And I have to look at the card again when I have it out. I don't have it out this time, but I don't know if this is part of it or not. But what they were showing me is now they were showing me an hourglass. And so the 2 of Pentacles, there's 2 sides to it, but they were saying the 4 part is that it's collecting the energy. It's actually staying there. So even if it's turning upside down here and there, it's doing something. It's actually collecting and gathering. We're not losing anything anymore. We're just figuring it out. It might just take a couple tries to see how long it takes and like what happens, but we're concentrating our energy. You know the difference in your energy when you're like, I had this amount of time. I have ADHD. I need this energy where it's like, when I know how much time I have, I'll get the thing done. Or if I know how many resources I have, I'll see what I can do with that. And so all of that crunching we're doing in that like 2 energy of like, what can I get rid of? How can I balance? How can I get stuff off my plate? That is so that when you get to this energy of now there's energy flowing, there's somewhere for it to go. It's that trapping energy. As we said, we've been treating ourselves. All the money's been flowing out. And we're like, bro, it's January. I'm going to do taxes soon. We need to get back into reality. I hate that energy. I avoid it like the plague. But what it's showing me is that this energy is so that when all of this abundance comes in, we have systems in place. It's not going to come back out again. Our eyes are on our budget. We know our patterns now. We're not going to just like say, oh, good, I can have a party with 6 of my friends because I got paid. And it's like, no, that's for later. That's for building the empire. That's for keeping the sandcastle in one piece. That's for creating a protective bubble around it. You know, that's what we're really working on here. And so this energy, it's collecting is the energy. And it's not collecting things. It's like collecting our thoughts, collecting our funds, collecting the resources that we need, but only what we need. And that's where that like releasing and letting go and not hanging on to extra stuff, which, I mean, speaking to me directly here, I'm literally packing and trying to get rid of stuff. So again, guinea pig of the universe over here, I'm with you on it. But I think there's honestly this energy where that sand, that blowing energy, it's really stabilizing here in a way that, like I said, we haven't felt in a while. And my body feels very calm this month. Usually when I'm looking at the cards, I'm like vibrating a little bit and I'm like cautiously optimistic at this point. I don't have any control over it. It's kind of sort of a surrendering, but not in an excited way. And a like, I can't do anything about this. But this time it feels like, no, like there's something building here. There's a direct energy shift between January and that 1st of February where all of a sudden you're like, no, we made it. Yes, collectively, it's actually looking worse, but we're working on ourselves so that we can support. This is the thing too, like when all this stuff is happening, people are coming together, they're making plans, they're gathering funds, again, collecting donations, collecting things for others. And that's the energy that you're doing for yourself, but it's also playing out in the larger energy where the people who have that Mercury and Capricorn, that like planning energy, that like how can we organize and make it efficient to make sure people are maximizing the resources. We're not wasting money on, shipping something further when there's something right in town. Like that's the energy that's happening, is efficiencies. So I feel very positive about this week, and I'm curious to hear what the energy is.
It's so interesting because we talk so often behind the scenes about how we feel like we get some of this energy before the collective in some ways. And literally on my list this week is like cleaning out closets and cleaning out drawers. And that's this feeling of you have to make space for something to come in. If there's literally no physical space for something new to come in, it's not going to. So I'm really hoping that more listeners will lean into that. It is a little bit of it's January, I got to clean the closet energy. So, okay, let's back up here. February 1st, and this affects the first 3 days of February. They're all about Venus. So starting on January 31st-ish, Venus and Neptune meet up for the first of 3 conjunctions between this pair that are going to happen over the year. This is interesting because it's really a feat that won't repeat until 2052. That's before these 2 planets will meet up again like this. This time, Venus and Neptune are meeting up at 27 degrees of dreamy Pisces. And what's interesting is it's just 2 degrees off of the North Node. So under this spellbinding union, we're seeking that perfect response from the perfect person, forgetting that the illusions we've created in our mind may not actually be our reality. But on the flip side, this is loving and healing energy, and it really could guide us towards love and forgiveness with much more compassion in the air. Now, on the 1st, the moon is going to leap into Aries at about 8:10 p.m. Eastern, but not before adding this extra emotional kick to this conjunction with these 2. On the 2nd, Venus and Neptune are still conjoined, and it's important to find ways to use this energy to motivate your passion projects by balancing the practical with the spiritual in a way that feels authentic and nourishing. Where have you been too rigid or disconnected in your approach to life? It's really time to cultivate gratitude for the small moments while also dreaming big and trusting in the magic of the unknown. On February 3rd, just before diving into Aries tomorrow, Venus is going to unite with the North Node in Pisces, and together they again ask us to surrender and trust in the flow. This union could help to ease the anxiety we're feeling and help us to release that white-knuckled grip on reality that we've kind of been holding on to. Mercury will still be in Aquarius, but is going to trine Jupiter and Gemini, and this is going to inflate nearly everything these 2 air signs come into contact with. Be prepared for some good news with not so much harmony in the air, but don't expect to come out with a solid action plan. This is just going to kind of inflate things. Mars is also going to be square Chiron for 2 days, and this energy can tear open emotional wounds and make us feel emotionally vulnerable. But thankfully, the moon is going to plod into Taurus at 8:33 p.m., and that's going to help you to ground and maybe get back into your body a little bit. On the 4th, so from February 4th through March 27th, Venus is going to spin into fiery Aries, and it's going to heat up in the sign of the Ram for nearly 2 months, but not without some warning lights. Be prepared for things to burn hot and fast with a heavy dose of courage. Jupiter is also ending its 5-month retrograde today, where it really caused a lot of frustration and mental detours. Where have things felt stuck since October 9th? Now might finally be the time for you to share your voice, but remember, it's going to get loud out there. So again, discernment is your best friend. On the 5th, we have a first quarter moon in Taurus. This is just a really great day to take bold action on any intentions that you set under last month's Aquarius new moon. Use refined Taurus to add sophisticated new through lines toward your goals. On the 6th, the moon moves into Gemini. You might find your mind jumping back and forth between projects to find the thing that feels just right. On the 7th, we welcome a day full of harmonious sextiles. So the first pairing is between Venus in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius, which could create an opportunity for you to take action on that once far out idea you had. How can you use this momentum to carry you into uncharted territory? How about with a little help from our second pairing between the Sun in Aquarius and Chiron in Aries? These two energies are here to help you get out of your own way and stop resisting the destiny you were meant for. And then one more on the 8th, we have another harmonious unlucky day when Mercury and Chiron get in on the energy pairings and bring opportunities for you to have an important conversation or maybe move beyond a limiting belief. At this point, Mercury is still in Aquarius, so this could feel a little bit like a lightning bolt idea out of nowhere. The moon will dive into Cancer early at 6:04 in the morning Eastern, and this could add an emotional depth to the healing that happens today. So it is grounding, but it's that Venus energy that's coming in so strong and really asking us to follow those dreams and to move through these sticky situations.
I feel like the universe is really helping us to narrow down to like shorten this episode because honestly, that energy at the end there of the week is exactly what's spilling into the next week. So from the 9th to the 15th, I pulled the Empress, which is a 3. Very feminine energy, very much connecting with others, connecting with energy, but it's literally making your dreams a reality. And it has that still earth energy to it. The Empress is very earthy. The Emperor is her partner, and that's like creating the empire. But the energy of the Empress is like the actual trust that you can be intuitive, but also grounded and also make that a reality. Like what needs to happen to take action for that to move forward. So those big dreams, that dreamy energy is here. I'm feeling similar energy to the Queen of Cups. I always feel like she's like a bridge between her and the Queen of Pentacles. It's like she sits between those two in my energy. And I think that's exactly what we can hope for here. Again, even though it's, not necessarily going to be happening immediately, there's this energy of all of a sudden, like what Emily was saying, that mental confusion, that retrograde was keeping us from moving forward with our thoughts or collecting the thoughts, collecting ourselves. That's what's happening here is like all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, why did I think this was going to be so hard? I just have to do this, I was having this even myself in the last little while where it's like things that I was like, oh God, I don't have time to like, overhaul this whole thing. But it's like literally clicking 2 buttons. And it's like, oh, okay. If I just sat still long enough to like process it and like sit with it, I'd be able to do it. So really just this week feels like a bridge. Where you're going to be actually having the inspiration, the excitement that you need. Because I think we can feel stagnant with like the 2 of Pentacles, the 4 of Pentacles. There's a lot going on outside the world. It can kind of make us want to look at the details and not really get too excited. But this is like just giving us enough of that resurgence of energy to be inspired, but still staying on track. We're not losing ourselves. We're not turning everything upside down with this energy, which is kind of nice. It's just sort of giving us a spark, that Aries energy. Like, okay, you know what? I can actually start this project. I just have to do a few tasks. I don't have to do it all at once. I know once I get going, it'll keep going, but it's that like initial excitement when you open the notebook or go into your supplies to pull stuff out. If you just set the scene, I'm getting the sense of bringing out all the supplies you need, or like, when you're setting up a meal to cook and you have everything ready so that you can just throw it in the pot. That's sort of this energy, but in a way where you're like super excited to see what comes next.
That really flows beautifully into the 9th because we have a Kazemi that day, which I don't cover a lot of Kazemis. It's when the sun meets up with the planet, and I always feel like it burns away the residual nonsense that that planet has maybe been carrying. So on the 9th, we have it between the sun and Mercury, and it's really burning away old ideas like the stubborn pattern that you have to do everything alone, or that the project is going to take way longer than you thought it would, exactly like you said, Andrea. Aquarius is known for its unconventional and futuristic energy, and it's going to enhance Mercury's natural ability to process information. And this really creates a powerful window for innovative problem solving and forward-thinking communication. Keep an eye out for significant news in the collective around technology, science, social advancements. This could be a really powerful window for anything in terms of maybe new healing modalities. Anything could come up. Also, lighting up the skies between the 9th and the 11th will be a slower moving Mars in Cancer trine to Saturn in Pisces. Because both signs are in water, Home, family, and country matters will likely be front and center. Things that have been bubbling under the surface will demand to be addressed. So this is some of that. The Empress is going to rise above it, but it's still going to be something that's in the air. On the 10th, it's like an electric tension that you might feel, and you can blame Mercury in Aquarius challenging unruly Uranus and Taurus. This challenging and feisty energy, right? They're opposite each other right now. They're who's going to win, could quickly lead to a war of words. With the moon leaping into Leo just before noon Eastern, prepare for an afternoon of fireworks. Are you okay being misunderstood, or do you need to demand clarity? Choose your battles carefully because attention is going to continue to build. On the 11th, I actually said cue the symbol crash because this is that like powerful, here it is. And this conflicting meetup is between the Sun in Aquarius and Uranus and Taurus, and it's going to spark major flare-ups and ego battles. Now, this is a biannual clash that tends to magnify existing power struggles and inspire impulsive reactions because these energies are fixed and stubborn. It takes a lot for either of them to finally act. It could take a force of nature to get someone to change their mind, so stay grounded and be the calm in the storm. This isn't about thinking your way through. It's about feeling your way into alignment. But keep in mind that building full moon in Leo is going to be exact early tomorrow morning. So it's going to have everyone fighting to be a part of the spotlight. You're going to feel that intense energy coming in. Hold on because the tension will start to fade in the next few days. As the energy of the Leo full moon builds, you may notice a deeper calling to explore creative project or move in some way to get past a creative block. I really recommend pulling out some tiger's eye or something to help enhance the creativity and maybe pinpoint what's truly important. Another thing I wanted to mention about this moon, I think it's going to be a really important one for the year. If you're into human design at all, it's focused in gate 6, the gate of friction, where we're meant to understand that friction is a natural part of life. It can be a catalyst for growth, transformation, and greater understanding when used in a healthy way, and we can unlock that emotional balance and find conflict resolution. On the 12th, after this sort of peak of energy, the moon is going to plot into Virgo. That's going to help us get back to those day-to-day, like we've been talking about. How can I be in my body doing dishes and know that I'm okay? The 13th, again, quiet, but the moon is going to square Jupiter momentarily, so you could feel overwhelmed by the amount of ideas or information out there. Just stick to your intuition. And then on the 14th, I'm going to hold off reading the 14th. Again, I bet this rolls into your next card, Andrea.
That is interesting energy to be shifting from, because in the next card, still in the Pentacles, miraculously somehow, for the 16th to the 18th, those last few days, as per usual, feel a little bit different. They're not getting lumped in. And I think this is because it's a slowing in a way where it's a pause, where you're still doing stuff, things are still happening, but maybe because you're so excited and like pushing so hard, you expect it to be like instant results. But then we're like, okay, let's just slow down and realize we want this to be sustainable. That's one of the things this year that keeps coming in, is like we want something that's going to be built. We want something that's going to last. We're not being as impulsive. Like I know Emily referenced that sort of energy before. Like we're not doing things impulsively if we can help it. We're trying to make decisions that are balanced and that are actually going to serve us moving forward. And so the energy of the Seven of Pentacles is the image on the card. If you're in my newsletter, it's a person looking down at the ground and like putting the energy into it. And yeah, you're putting a lot of energy into it. There's nothing sprouting really yet. The sprout isn't really happening, but below the surface, everything's growing, everything's flowing, and it's going to come through. And so this is sort of a point of a check-in while you're waiting, then you can kind of look back at that 2 energy, that 2 of Pentacles. Like, is there anything else I can release? It's been a couple weeks now. Is there anything that now I feel like I can add to my plate? Am I overwhelmed now? Is there so much coming in that now I have to sort of sort through those ideas and be like, well, those things are growing. Do I think I can also do this, or should I wait and see how this plays out? It's sort of an energy of regrouping, but the 7 always feels very spiritual. This is a time when you're going to get downloads. Again, when you're doing the dishes, that's when I get the most things. If I go for a walk, if I'm doing the dishes, if I'm having a shower, if you're driving, those day-to-day mundane tasks, it's bringing up a card actually in the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, and it's called Chop Wood. And it's the energy of a Chinese proverb, to give credit where that idea came from. But it's before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. We have to do the day-to-day tasks. That's, again, I think that's like Capricorn self-care, is like doing the things that need to be done feels good. And it allows you to have that connection to spirit, because when you're not having to think about the task, you're crown, your mind is open to new ideas. And that's where those ideas swirling in can actually have space to, again, be seeds planted that maybe they won't come to the surface. Maybe we won't know what to do with that information, but you can jot them down. You can write them down, make a list of the things that are exciting. And that way, when you're going through them, you're not going to lose them. That's my one of my ADHD tips that has saved me in the last couple of years, is every time I have an idea or I think of something I have to do next, instead of jumping from task to task, that impulsive energy, I write it down. So I'm like, it's not lost. I know I won't forget it now. I know I can address it when it's time. But it's that urgency again. There's a lot of that energy. It's like actually discerning what is urgent and what is just our brain getting excited about something. And that's, everybody experiences that. And I think that's sort of what this energy is saying. Yes, there's exciting energy. There's a lot of inspiration. There's connection to spirit. There's a lot of that because we're heading into Pisces. I think that's Pisces sneaking in, right? That energy of, oh, wait, the veil is a little bit thinner. I'm getting a lot of connection. Maybe you'll be seeing synchronicities, but it's not necessarily the time to jump all in. It's time to plant seeds and keep working on the things. Don't get distracted from the things that were your goals that you're excited about already. Those passion projects were already in. But just know that eclipse season is coming, Aries season is coming. There's going to be other things coming. So don't start too many things that are going to need your constant attention. Just do the things that allow you to maintain right now.
That's spot on. And really, there's just kind of one thing that happens on the 14th, 15th, and then it's quiet all the way until the 18th when Pisces season begins. So what's happening and what is going to carry out for essentially a couple of months, we have Mercury. It's going to move out of Aquarius. It just did its quick little spin through, and it's going to dive into Pisces. And that does pull us back into like the bigger picture, but it can also, you can kind of get swept away in that energy. So it could be easy to fall prey to ambiguity or foggy communications, the fantasy version of what you want. And we've had a lot of energy in Pisces over the last couple of years. We've been kind of in this, well, if I just believe that the good will happen, it will happen, instead of the reality that we have to do the work to get to that point. What's interesting about this is that I want you to pay close attention to the things that come up during the next 3 to 4 weeks, because Mercury is going to move into Aries, but then it's going to retrograde back into Pisces, March 15th to April 7th. So this is a great time to start a spiritual practice. But maybe don't start that new business based on this brilliant idea that you had 2 weeks ago. Right? You want to work through that. You want to make sure that the foundation is there. This just isn't necessarily a good time to put a brand new something into action, even though you're going to feel really good about it. It just may not gain the traction that you hope. Now, that's not to say that isn't going to come, because we have a lot of, like Andrea said, the grains of sand are collecting. We are manifesting things this year. It's just, this is an opportunity for you to get a little bit more clarity. Like maybe you don't have the funds to just spur this idea and carry the back end of the website and the email list and all the things to make it happen. Maybe it just needs to be pared down a little bit. And the moon is going to be opposite Saturn and Neptune on the 14th. So this is interesting because on the 14th, right, traditionally we celebrate Valentine's Day. So your ideal dinner date might not meet the fantasy vision you had. And this is true in all relationships, whether it's romantic or not. How can you find that balance between your inner and outer worlds? On the 15th, the moon is going to dip into Libra, and it's going to square Pluto and Aquarius for the first half of the day. Sometimes you have to make room in your relationships for the unexpected. If everything is perfect, you'll likely not leave any of that room for magic, like we were talking about earlier. The 16th is fairly quiet. The moon is going to continue in Libra. The 17th, it dives into Scorpio in the late evening. And then we jump right into Pisces season. So it is quiet. I get this vision of being in a bathtub, and it's like you just get in and you're like excited because you've got the bath bombs and the fizzies and your magazine and the candle and the tea. And then you sit there for a minute and you're like, oh my God, I just need to sit in the tub. I just need to let the water still around me and just be present. That, I think, is what we're going to come out of, sort of this burst of energy and things feeling really good. And we just have to remember that it's important to be still sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot that comes from that surrendering to the stillness. And I think keeping in mind that it's part of the process. I think we're so far removed from our natural cycles. And I think this year is bringing us again back into the body. Like, this has been a theme that we've been talking about recently, like more recently than, in the past few years. But I think that idea, that the fact that we have all this Pentacles energy is like, the energy is trying so hard. The tarot is like, please just do the little things that you don't really want to do, because that is self-care. That is setting yourself up for success. That was an energy that has been coming up a lot too. And it was in the recharge for Capricorn. So if you haven't clicked on it, on my website, it's available for free, the PDF, but it's been coming up. And I think there's an energy behind that is, leading up to things that we can't really predict yet. And so sometimes it's hard to focus on the boring stuff if we don't know why we're doing it. We always have to give ourselves a reason. Like, if it doesn't feel good, why would I do it? But I think if we just trust that, like, the energy that's coming forward for me, just to summarize what like a tangible reason why that would feel good, is like, if you have been doing all the little things to clean and organize and feel really good and look around and be like, wow, my space is so beautiful. I can light a candle, feel like I did the thing. And then someone calls and says, I'm coming over. And you're like, I just restocked everything. My house is clean. Sure, come on over. I don't even have to panic this time. I don't have to panic clean and throw everything in the closet. It's that feeling. That's what they're showing us, is like, just in general in life, the more you can do to actually clean out the closet, even so there is room if you have to shove stuff in it. It's like trying to make sure that there's not a lot of extra stuff we're ignoring. I think that's where, like what Emily was saying, there's going to be a lot of themes, I think, of things coming to light, things coming to the surface, coming out. And so if we can get our physical world more organized, then we won't feel as overwhelmed emotionally when other things hit.
Yeah, because honestly, and we talked about this in Gaining Light, March is when things really start to get, I keep saying spicy, and people are like, what do you mean by spicy? It's an unpredictable layer of, and I do want to say heat, acceleration, frustration, anger, tension, like all of those things that really start to come into play when we get so much energy moving into Aries starting in March, and it continues into April. And then at the same time, we're building to this huge conjunction in June. And so this is an opportunity to lay the foundation so that when you need to escape, when you need to drop on the floor and do a meditation practice or a yoga practice, the things that you would have needed to take care of are already done. This, I feel, is an opportunity for us to prepare. And I don't mean that necessarily in a prepper way, but it's not a bad idea to have some extra meals made, to have some water on hand, to have really thought through some of these pieces that could come into play as we move into the next couple of months.
Yeah, it does feel really like the small things are the powerful things right now. And I think that came up again. I have no idea. We've done so much in the last couple of months, but at some point, I know that energy was like the small things are the big things. That was a really big theme. And I think that's going to continue. And yeah, it's going to support us when things get really wild and unpredictable, at least we'll know that like we're the ones that can take a little rest when everyone else is still having to hold everything on their shoulders. All of those balls we were juggling that we pared down and we really organized, I think is going to be, we're going to be the people that are surprisingly prepared, like emotionally and mentally, for being able to have that discernment and that like stillness that we still need to find for ourselves as things get a little bit more uncomfortable.
And I do have a lot more information about the year of the wood snake. Now, we haven't had a snake year in quite a while. But that wood is that encouragement, right? That things that are worth having take a little bit of time. And so this is that slow grow, that deep wood feeling. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I think it's going to be a grounding Aquarius season, which is so interesting. But I love that you pulled so many pentacles, and I think it really aligns. It's bringing in that Venus, heavy Venus energy, a little bit feminine. It could even be a little bit feisty. We'll see what happens, but fight for what you need and make sure that you are getting further ahead than where you were or how you felt in December when we've had so much Mars in retrograde.
Yeah, I think we're set up for the next few months with this. And hopefully when we come back in Pisces season, we'll be ready to hear whatever is coming in at that point.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you are interested in working with Andrea or I, feel free to check out our websites. We have lots of great offerings right now. We're just going to kind of keep this episode simple and sweet today, but we will be back soon. And if you have any questions or anything comes up, you need any clarity, you want us to pull a card, don't hesitate to reach out. We always love hearing from you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Spirit Crumbs. You can find me on Instagram for this podcast at Spirit Crumbs. Or you can also find me at Concrete and Crystals for my own spiritual offerings and more tidbits about my own journey. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.